Hi, welcome back to my channel, Fabulously Frugal and Fancy. I'm Brandy, and today I'm going to be making some covers for my machines. I have my Silhouette Curio here, my sewing machine, and you can't see it on the screen, but my Cricut Easy Press. I want to make some covers. I got this pink leather. I ordered this off of Amazon so that I could make some covers for these and keep them from dust. Now the Cricut did come with its own little bag, but I want something that just sits on top of it, not something that I have to like undo the bag and open it and do all of that. So I've got to make a pattern, and then I will make the covers from the leather, and we'll work through that. So let's make something fabulous. Alright, so what you want to start with here is you want to make your patterns, and you need to first start by taking your measurements. The sewing machine, here's the pattern pieces that I needed to make the pattern. I needed the top, the front, the sides, and then a handle piece. And again, you want to measure the length, the width, and the height. Here's the Easy Press and the patterns. You can just screenshot my pattern page if you'd like, and then that way you know what pieces you will need to make your own. Here's the one for the Easy Press. You just need the top and the sides, again, length, width, and height. And you just need one piece for the handle. And I wrote on each one how many you need, how many of each piece you need to cut. Here's the Curio, the final picture of that, how it turned out, and the pieces that you need to make your pattern. You need the front, the top, and the end pieces, and the handle piece. Again, measure your length, width, height of each piece, and as you see here, I use a soft measuring tape to make my patterns. I use a large sketch pad, and I just start with the measuring tape, measure the length, the width, and the height. Now on my Curio it's very easy because it's all pretty square. On the Easy Press the bottom is wider, so I take my measurements from the bottom piece and I do the length, the width, and the height. The sewing machine, the bottom is wider. There's also pieces that stick out at the end, so you want to take those into account. Your buttons on the sides, and measure all of those. And then on this large sketch pad, I just draw out the pieces with my measurements. I have my measurements written down there, and I just use a straight edge ruler. I use a large one so that I have one that's longer than 12 inches. This one goes up to I think 24, but I only needed one that went up to at least like 18 inches. And I made all the pattern pieces. I didn't show you all of that because I gave you the printout of those. Here I just take my fabric and I roll it out. And I take some pattern pieces and I place them down just so that I can, place them around where I'm going to cut them out. I do use pins and pin these down. And some of the pieces I need more than one, so here I'm measuring to give myself enough room for 3. And then I'm just cutting my material into smaller sections so that it's easier to work with, because it's very, tough to work with that large of a piece of fabric. I'm sorry that my focus keeps going in and out on the brightness. I'm not sure what I did there. I think it's something about the white paper moving around and my colorful shirt. And please don't mind the mess in the background. My craft stuff has moved from upstairs down to the basement, and I am in the process of organizing and putting things away, so it looks a mess back there right now. Please just ignore the mess, and I don't have much of a walkway. I've given myself just enough room to get through because I have an extra table set up so I can lay all the things out and divide them all up. I need 3 of this piece here, so I'm just folding this piece over so that I have 3. I can cut all 3 at once. And then I just use my straight pins And I got my pin cushion from the Dollar Tree. I really like those. My mom and I used to make those when I was little with like the larger caps off of bottles. And we'd put the elastic on them and we'd make them ourselves. Sometimes we'd make them small enough to be worn on a finger instead of on the wrist. But when I saw these at the Dollar Tree, I was like, wow, I just have to pick some of these up. And I grabbed a couple of them. You can never have too many pin cushions. It just seems like I never have enough. So as you can see, I pinned down the pattern piece on top of all 3 layers of material, and I'm cutting out all 3 at one time. You want to have sharp scissors to cut material. You want to have material scissors that are strictly for your material, because if you cut paper with the same scissors, it dulls them and they're not as sharp and they won't cut through material as well. So you want to have your scissors for your sewing that are specifically for material only. You don't want to use those on paper. You don't want to use those on anything else. Mine, I got some that have flowered handles so that I can't mistake them for anything else. And I'm going to put them strictly with my sewing stuff and not keep them out in the open, because I don't want anybody that comes in my craft room to use my material scissors for anything else either, because it will dull them. You want to keep your pins sharp too, because if they're not sharp, they won't go through all layers of material, especially with this thick leather. And if your pins are not sharp enough, you can put them in wax. I will use old candles that have melted down. I will stick my pins into the wax and it sharpens them back up. If you have any rough spots on your pins, you just want to throw them away. But if they're just dull and they won't go through your material, you just want to put them in wax and it sharpens them back up. I'm not sure how that works, but it actually does work. And here I'm just laying the pattern pieces out on the material. I don't show you me cutting all of them out. I just show you this portion here so that you get an idea. I just pin the pieces to the material and then cut it out. You do want to pin them down because otherwise your pattern will shift. You want to leave the pattern piece attached to the piece of material. You do not want to take that off, because on each pattern piece I've written what the piece is, and you don't want to get them confused. Once you take that piece of paper off, it can be very confusing. It's a little bit harder to figure out exactly what piece belongs where. Alright, so I'm showing you this little section. I don't show you much, but I am putting in a bigger sewing needle in my sewing machine. There's different numbers that you can get. This is a 16. The thicker your material, the larger number you want to use on your sewing machine. Here's some different black ribbons that I have, and I just want to add a little accent pieces. If you remember the final pictures that I already showed you, I added some black stripes on each one in different areas just to add a little bit of decoration to these. So I take the pieces that I want to add it to. It's the front of the sewing machine piece, the front of the Curio, but then I did the top of the Easy Press because that was the largest piece of material. And I just lay the pieces out in a straight line. I don't measure, I'm just looking at it and visually making it as straight as I possibly can. I think they turned out pretty good. But before you do any other sewing, you want to add these pieces on. You want to sew them down. And I'm only showing you me doing it to one of the patterns. I don't believe I show you all of them because that would be a little tedious, but I know I showed you me doing it to one, and I just add a couple of stripes just to give it a little bit of decoration, and then you just go over the top lines of those with a straight stitch. Like I say, I'm going to show you me adding the ribbon to all of them. I apologize for that. I will take this opportunity just to say that if you like all things frugal, then I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of variety on my channel, some DIYs, as you can see, some how-to tutorials, product reviews. I also do, clothing, anything to save money. I show you different ways to save money on all different types of things because I like to be frugal. And if you like fabulous frugal things, then please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I would ask that you would leave a comment below. Just let me know what area you are watching from. If you live in the United States, you can tell me what state you live in. If you live out of the United States, just let me know where you're watching from. I'm always interested to know where people are from, and I would love to get to know you all better. So please leave me a comment, just introduce yourself, and let me know where you're from. So on the sewing machine, I'm putting 3 because it's the largest piece, and I just kind of want to add 3 stripes. And the ribbon that I picked, one of them has a shimmer to it and one of them is glitter, so it does add a little bit of sparkle, because if you know me, I like to add a little bit of sparkle to just about everything. A little bit of sparkle makes everything shine. So I just love to sparkle. I love things that shine and sparkle, so I wanted to add a little bit of decoration. I love the bright pink, and I just wanted to add something that contrasted really well with that and added a little bit of bling or sparkle to it. So now that these are all pinned down, I'm just going to, you just do a straight stitch on each side of the ribbon. For the very thin ribbon, I just do 1 down the center, but for the larger ribbon, I do 1 on each side of the ribbon. I just do a straight stitch along that side. It's very simple. You just stitch right along the edge there. You want to keep your pin in until you get almost to the point. It keeps your ribbon straight where it is. But you do not want to sew over top of your pins, because you can dull your needle, or you can even break your needle in your sewing machine. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My allergies are acting up a little bit, and I've been battling with my sinuses for the last few days. I would have had this video up sooner, but I kept deleting the voiceovers because I just kept with my sinuses. So hopefully I can get through this one today. I apologize for the delay in the video coming up, but sometimes life happens and you just have to let it go and do what you can do, and not try to do anything more. So like I said, I just go down each side of the ribbon for the wide ribbon. For the narrower ribbon, sorry, that word was hard to come out for some reason, I would just do 1 down the middle. But on the medium-sized ribbon, that middle one, it was more of a sheer. I did go on each side of that one as well, because I didn't want it to like unravel or anything, because the way the ribbon was made. And you can get your ribbon at Dollar Tree. You can get it at Walmart. This black ribbon all came in 1 pack. It was like 6 different sets of ribbon, and this was left over. I had done a project last year for Christmas for my brother, and I bought the ribbon to make the trim on the sides, and so this was all leftover ribbon for me. I did not purchase this for this, but it was like $6, and you got like 6 different patterns in there. And of course the glitter and the sparkle, I didn't use it all for his, but it all came in the same set, and it was the only place I could find the black ribbon that I needed to trim out his cape that I was making for him. And so this is all leftover ribbon. You always want to look through what you have and see if you can use what you already have instead of buying something new. The only thing I bought new for this was the fuchsia colored leather, and I got that on a really good deal. I got that on Amazon, and it was $6 a yard, and it is very, very soft faux leather, and it sewed really well, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So faux leather and leather can be very expensive, but I got this at a really good deal. That's why I got extra of it. I ended up getting 3 yards of it, knowing I wouldn't need that much for this project, but I figured at that price, I know that because I love pink, I will definitely use it again. And there I'm just trimming off the extra, and that's how that turned out. And now we're going to move on to the handles. I sew all 3 handles at one time, and I take my handle piece and I just fold it over 2 times, once to the middle, and I'm doing a zigzag stitch to hold that center piece down. I just do a small zigzag stitch. If you put your setting, I put it on like a 2 for the width of the the stitch there. I didn't want it very wide, I wanted it pretty narrow. And I just go over that center piece to hold that piece down. I always try to trim off all of my extra material, extra fabric there, extra thread, sorry. And then I just fold that second piece over and do a second zigzag stitch there. And then I go around all four sides just to make the handle as sturdy as possible, because I want the handle, it's not to lift any weight, it's just to lift the covers up off the machines. So this doesn't have to hold any weight, but I wanted it stable and I wanted it to look pretty as well. So I do the finishing seams on the sides, on each of the sides, and then on the ends as well, just to give it a finished look. And it didn't take that much longer to add those extra seams, but I like the way that it looks in the end. And as you can see here, I always line up my needle because I want the seam to be very close to the edge as a finishing seam. So I line my needle up, I just put it down, and then I lower my presser foot. It helps me to line up exactly where I want the stitch to be. Trimming off my excess thread once again. And if you saw there, that just gives it a finished look, and then I do the ends to finish those off. I enjoy sewing. I learned how to sew when I was about 12 years old, probably before then a little bit, but I really started learning how to sew when I got my sewing machine. I was 12, and my mom always sewed. She would make clothes and things like that for us, and I always enjoyed sewing. I could make something that was really pretty and save a lot of money, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so sometimes I couldn't afford the nice clothes that other people had, but we could make them, and I always enjoyed making them. So there's the finished handle, and then I'm going to start with the Easy Press. I'm going to show you just how I sew one of these together. I take the handle and I do that first, and I want to leave a little gap. I don't want it laying flat because I just wanted a raised up handle. So, and again, I'm kind of eyeballing it, and I measure it with my hands to make sure it's like centered there. And I take the four sides of the Easy Press pattern, and it's going to be the same on all of them. Some of them you'll have shorter pieces for the ends, like the sewing machine and the Curio, but you just want to sew all four of these pieces together first, and then you'll attach them to the top all at once. So I just do a stitch there, and then you always want to put right sides together so that your seam is hidden behind, and I just go all the way around, and I make my square to go around the sides. These are the side pieces. And you always want to back stitch, just like I did there. You do the reverse stitch, and it just locks in your stitching so that it's a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more durable. All right, you just remember to keep your right sides together when you're sewing any fabric, because that way your seams are always on the inside. With this fabric, it's very easy to see which is the right side. Some fabric is a little bit more difficult, and you really have to look at it to see which is the inside and which is the outside. And then once I have them sewn all in a long strip, I'm going to complete the square, complete the outside edge by adding the right sides together, putting the right sides together on that last seam. And this comes out to be a square, which is going to be the sides of the cover for the Easy Press. Now, if you're doing the sewing machine or the Curio, you're going to have shorter end pieces. You just go one long, one short, one long, one short, and then connect it all the way around. You're still going to have a square. So my square piece there, and then I'm going to attach the handle on the top. I'm using a zigzag stitch, and I go over it 3 times just to make sure that it is completely sturdy. It's probably a little bit of overkill. You probably don't need to do 3 times, but I just wanted to make sure the handle stayed on and didn't rip or come loose at any point. So I just go forward, backwards, and then forward so that I do the seam 3 times there to attach the handle to the top piece. You want to do that before you attach the top piece to the sides. It's much easier to work with the flat piece to attach that than it is the other way around. Now I just take one side and I line it up. You can pin this. I would recommend you pinning it if you're not as familiar with sewing. It's a little bit easier to pin it together. I don't pin it because I'm pretty confident in my sewing skills. I've been sewing for a long time, and a straight seam like this, I can just hold it in place and I don't necessarily have to pin it. If I'm working with different shapes or different sizes, then I will pin it, but a straight seam like this, I don't pin it. Now, if you can see the back of my black thread there, I had a problem with my tension at first, and if you do, it will bunch up on the back. I didn't take this apart and put it back down again because to me this is the inside and I'm not too worried about it because it was just to hold the decorative ribbon on the front. But if that was a seam that was holding structurally together, I would have used my seam ripper, taken it completely apart, and redone the stitch after I had fixed the tension settings. When you're working with different fabrics, your tension is going to change and you need to adjust it. So I recommend testing on some of the scrap fabric. Once you cut it out, you save those little pieces and you use that to find the right tension setting for your sewing machine. And if you're having trouble, my thread kept breaking at the beginning, and I actually upgraded and got a more expensive thread out of my stash and realized that the thread I'd been using was really cheap and not high quality, so it was just kept breaking. And the thread I'm using here is just Walmart thread. It's not expensive thread by any means, but it is higher quality than the thread that I had been using before, and I'm not even sure where I had gotten that thread. So you just want to line up each side with the top. And on the Easy Press, it's easy because you've got the same size all the way around. The other ones is a little bit more challenging, but it's not difficult either way it goes. And then you just want to push those corners out, flip your cover to the right side. Now, because this is leather, I don't need to do a finishing hem on the bottom. If it was a fabric that would unravel, I would do a finishing hem, but I don't really need to do that with the others. And then here's how they all turned out. Here's the Easy Press cover with the decorations on the top. And it just lifts right off. This cover is not made to lift the machine in any way. This is a cover simply to keep your machines clean. You don't want dust in especially your sewing machines because it can clog the motor. And I'm assuming with the cutting machines, it's probably the same way. So I wanted a cover for these to keep the dust, and we have pets, so to keep the pet hair out of my machines and out of the motors. And they just lift right off and set right on, and they look beautiful, and they are protecting my machines as well. I'm really happy with how these turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, so what did you think about the covers that we made? How do you think they turned out? Let me know in the description box below if you've made anything like this, if you would have chosen leather or a different type of fabric to use. Let me know what you think. Also, I want to thank everyone here. I have reached 100 subscribers, and I'm just very blessed. I want to say thank you to all my subscribers. I am so glad that you enjoy watching the show and that you've subscribed to my channel. If you have not subscribed yet, I would like to ask you to subscribe. Join our fabulous team here. We have a lot of fun, and it's just making things fabulous on a budget. because I am frugal. So if you like that type of thing, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave me a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. I want to know where my subscribers are from, especially where you are watching from. I would greatly appreciate it. So I hope you have a blessed day. Bye.